Pakistan has conducted its second missile test in 2 days as tensions continue to escalate with India over a deadly terror attack that took place almost 2 weeks ago in the disputed region of Kashmir. New Delhi has accused its neighbour of involvement in the attack, and that's a claim Islamabad has consistently denied. Pakistan's army says the surface-to-surface weapon missile with a range of 120 kilometres was launched as part of efforts to ensure, quote, operational readiness. It conducted its first successful launch on Saturday. Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif says the launch demonstrates Pakistan's preparedness on national defence. The leader postponing an official visit to Malaysia this week, having to manage growing hostilities at home. Calls for de-escalation are mounting. Iran's foreign minister has arrived in Islamabad to speak to Pakistan's leaders before heading for New Delhi later this week. Abbas Araghchi will be the first senior foreign diplomat to visit both countries and mediate between the nuclear-armed neighbours. Russia has called on both sides to de-escalate tensions following a phone call between President Vladimir Putin and India's Prime Minister. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, meanwhile, has reportedly been briefed by his Air Force and Navy chiefs about troop deployments and weapon readiness. He's also met with his Defence Secretary. Mr. Modi has held several high-level meetings in the past week after reportedly granting the military, quote, full operational freedom in conducting any response. And we're joined by Hira Mustafa live from Islamabad and Neha Poonia live from New Delhi. Let's start with you, Hira. Pakistan's Prime Minister saying after these two missile tests in 2 days that he's satisfied with the Army's full preparedness for national defence. Does this mean there will be no more tests, given that he is satisfied, or are we looking at any more missile tests in the next few days?
Well, today's missile test is a second in a row ever since tensions between Islamabad and New Delhi are soaring over the past few days, ever since India has accused Islamabad of orchestrating a terror attack that happened in Indian-administered Kashmir. And we have seen that at the line of control, especially at the de facto border that separates Indian-administered Kashmir from Pakistan-administered Kashmir, tensions are situation is pretty tense there. Therefore, military exercises are taking place there on routine basis. And as part of this, missile test Pakistan is conducting missile tests. And what we are hearing from the officials that Pakistan is conducting these missile tests to alert or give signal to New Delhi that Pakistan is fully prepared if India conducts any cross-border strike from New Delhi. So it has all the capacity to retaliate. Experts believe that given the fact that now how situation is volatile in the disputed region of Kashmir, there is a possibility that Pakistan may conduct more missile tests in coming days, given the fact that now Pakistan's Prime Minister has stated that Pakistan has all the capacity to respond to any aggression that takes place from New Delhi.
Let's bring you in, Neha. Other leaders would have both global and regional reasons to ask both sides to de-escalate tensions, despite what we're hearing there from Hira. India's Prime Minister speaking to Russia's president even as these tests were being carried out. What do we know about what these two leaders might have exchanged on the phone?
Well, this is the first time that Prime Minister Narendra Modi and Russian President Vladimir Putin have spoken, and it's interesting the call is coming nearly 2 weeks since that terror attack in Kashmir took place. Now, India says it was actually President Putin who rang up Prime Minister Modi. He condemned the attack. He expressed full support for India in this, quote, uncompromising fight against terror. Also said that, and I'm quoting now, perpetrators of this heinous attack and their supporters must be brought to justice. Now, what what's important to note is that this language is very similar to the one we're seeing in Indian readouts when they are briefing the media on conversations that are being held with world leaders or representatives of other governments. And what's also important to note is that while Russia has reacted several times in the last 2 weeks since this terror attack took place, expressing support for India, it's also been calling for restraint, calling on Pakistan and India to exercise restraint, just like the US and China. But in this readout that came from Moscow, that call on India to exercise restraint was missing. The timing, experts say, is also key. Prime Minister Modi, speaking to the Russian president just hours before that UNSC meeting, which has been called behind closed doors, will meet. India in the last few weeks has also spoken to 4 out of 5 permanent UNSC members as it tries to shore up international support for what it claims is a persistent issue that comes from across the border.
Hira, it's not just Russia's president who is making his voice heard on this latest rise in tensions between India and Pakistan. We've also had Iran's foreign minister. He will be the first senior foreign diplomat to be making a call to both sides to ease these tensions between the two sides. He is in Islamabad right now. Any progress there in terms of calming these tensions?
Well, yes, earlier in the day, we have seen Foreign Minister addressing the diplomats and foreign dignitaries, in which he has categorically stated that Pakistan does not want to go to war, and Pakistan is respecting the concerns of the neighboring countries that Neha has mentioned. Russia's counterpart has also reached out to Islamabad. Similarly, Iran's foreign minister is also on a visit to Islamabad. So the country's foreign minister has stated that Pakistan will exercise maximum restraint despite the calls, because of the calls from the international community, but has also stated that if New Delhi is going to carry out any cross-border strike in coming days, then Islamabad will retaliate with full force. And this statement comes at a time when Iranian foreign minister is holding bilateral meetings with the country's top leadership along with the military officials. And as you already mentioned, that Iran is the first who urged both the countries to exercise restraint and offered mediation to help ease the tensions between the two neighbors. What's interesting to see here is that the country's foreign minister just a while ago, while addressing the media briefing along with the Iranian foreign minister, has stated that the situation in South Asia is very concerning, despite the fact that Iranian foreign minister is urging Islamabad and New Delhi to exercise maximum restraint. But experts here in Islamabad are telling what's going to be a point of concern is that India has now revoked unilaterally Indus Water Treaty, a major water sharing agreement, which is a point of concern for the Pakistani officials here. And in light of that, Pakistan's president has convened a National Assembly session, which is underway currently, and in that, Pakistan will be strategizing its next move in terms to highlight Indus Water Treaty at international level.
Well, Neha, picking up from what Hira said there, India's pulling out of participation in the Indus Water Sharing Treaty. It's making tangible steps to show that it is not taking part anymore. So starting some work on hydro projects, which it would in the past, under this treaty, not have been allowed to proceed with. Now, in fact, it is doing so.
This water sharing agreement is key because it dates back to 1960. It survived the two bitter South Asian rivals fighting 3 wars, several other points of conflict in their long shared history. But now with this terror attack that took place 2 weeks ago, India has said that it will ensure not a drop of water reaches Pakistan from the 3 western rivers. What we're now hearing through state-run media reports, as well as what leaders belonging to Prime Minister Narendra Modi's party are India claiming is that government officials, these unnamed officials who say that India started curtailing water flow at two dams built along the Chenab and the Jhelum River, which then eventually flow downwards into Pakistan. These rivers really helping about 80% of Pakistan's agricultural needs. And what has happened is that a reservoir flushing process began last week, according to these reports. It lasted several days. It's a way to remove sediment that builds up in these dams. What's important is that this has not happened since these dams were built, and that India has also not informed Pakistan of this move. And that's the reason why it hadn't done this before, was because the Indus Water Treaty prohibited reservoir flushing because it leads to flooding and inundation downstream. Now, what officials are saying is that this cleaning process will help improve capacity and power generation at these dams, but it's clearly a move that hampering, experts say, water flow into Pakistan. India is also reportedly looking at scaling up work in 6 projects that were stalled because of opposition from Islamabad. That's something now back on the table as well. And India's Home Affairs Minister, Amit Shah, who's Prime Minister Narendra Modi's right-hand man, along with the Water Ministry, will be holding several meetings this week. This is despite Pakistan saying that any move to stop the flow of water will be considered an act of war. But New Delhi clearly still pressing ahead with what it's decided to do.
Thanks. Hira Mustafa live in Islamabad for us, and Neha Poonia just heard that live from New Delhi.